All right, welcome back to another stream. I think we're on stream number 18 now. These are live sessions I'm doing on um, game development in Unity. Something I'm new at, but you get to see what I'm learning as I go and the things I'm creating or modifying in our mock-up project game here, codenamed Harvest. I'm your host, your presenter, your creator, your developer, your everything for this. My name is Michael Trippi, and I go by my alias name, Johnny Rush. So if you see me online playing a few games, look for Johnny Rush. More than likely, it's me. Anyways, I wanted to give an update on our area of this map. We we showed a little bit in the last video. I downloaded a free um, toolkit. It was called the Mega Fantasy Props Pack right here. I have it highlighted, and they had a bunch of stuff in here. A ton of stuff, as you can see by the folder structures as we go through. There's quite a bit, all these prefabs, there's subfolders in that, and so I kind of browsed through a lot of that. Some of it I could use, some I couldn't, for the area that I started working on, this immediate area. But this area is going to be the main town, or the main focus of this island, and so we'll travel through to different areas and visit. There'll be other areas that will be developed, but um, pretty much everything will happen at this town. It's kind of like if anyone's played WoW or is familiar with it, you always have that main town you come back to, and you could do trades and I want to have merchants and vendors of various things, and so you would go out and discover the world, the island, and loot, pillage, get whatever you need to get. Go on quests and different things. But when you come back, you come back to the main area, which is going to be the area that'll be set up where you can actually save your progress, save your items, and eventually have a sustained player inventory system that will be there when you log back into the game. So, and of course, down the road it'll be multiplayer. So, along your road quests, you may run into other players that may try to hijack you and take your what's in your backpack. So, all that's going to be worked on. This is a work in progress and a learning sandbox, if you want to call it that. My first 3D project in Unity. Actually, not my first, but I did one prior to this, a short 11 video series on a quick and dirty Space Invaders game. But it was just to kind of refamiliarize myself with the Unity editor, and I had looked at it 2 years ago, and for about a week, I spent a week on Thanksgiving break and played with it, and I liked it, but I never did get back into it until now. And that was maybe 3 years ago. Actually, it's been a while. Um, so anyway, it was version 4. I can tell you that it was a version 4 release. Now they went to all the way through 5, 5.6, and now we've got 2017 and 2018 being released, which I haven't updated yet. I'm going to stay on this version and not really upgrade yet, because it does sometimes tend to break projects, and some things that I may be using could be obsolete or removed, and it could cause some issues. So we're not going to deal with that right now. But anyway, so I wanted to show you the progress. On the last video, I just outlined kind of a square structure border, which you can see down here where my hand icon is there. And I want to show you, we're going to zoom in, and I'm going to show you. So we had this outline right here. It didn't have these, I don't know if you can see these wooden colored, tan colored items, and the center structure stuff was not there. So I'm gonna just play this so you can kind of see where I'm at. Uh, this here is going to be the main area. There's you see there's some spawn locations I added. I took some of the props that were in this, like the barrels, the boxes, the tables, and set them up throughout the area here that I set up. And I added our spawn item attribute script, which, you know, we can attach it to any item, any 3D model, any FBX, and create a prefab out of it that becomes a spawnable item. Well, a prop that has a spawnable, a spawn location included with it, and we can customize what items are spawning. Now, the only thing I set everything to all, so all the spawners can spawn any item. I didn't categorize anything specific or filter down to anything specific. All spawn locations will spawn any item, and also there was a change I made. You know, I've tweaked the code, the spawn code, in the beginning when it starts, so that instead of having everything kind of, since it's all set to basically the one I'm using is, let me show you here, the prefabs folder. I have a, well, that's a different spawn there. There's, I did use that, but now I've started creating another one. It's in the main prefabs folder. Let me close that. Resources, prefabs. There we go. We got a spawn 300, which is set to, you see, all for the element, for the category. 300 for the frequency, which is divide 60 seconds into 300. That's every 5 minutes. It'll spawn a new item. The lifetime is 200. So, you know, that means I might just do 240. That gives us an exact 4 minutes, lifetime of the item, and then 5 minutes. So it'll despawn after that if you don't pick it up. And a minute later, we'll get a respawn. Now, one thing I changed in the script that that we have, and I'm not going to load it in the Visual Studio. We're going to keep that out of here. By the way, I did strip away all the trees and leave that. I put a few in here, just in this area. You can see on the map, just to give it some environment with that. But you know, I'm looking to develop outside of this rectangular area I've developed. There's going to be additional things set up around the outside here. This is going to be a major platform. So some of these trees I may eventually take out as this area progresses and all that. I haven't decided exactly, and that's what I need to do, is decide exactly what's going to go on. I know in these circular areas that are here, we zoom in more, these are little chambers here, like little rooms, circular rooms, with entryway in each. Those are going to be the various merchants there that will do certain things. Some may just trade with you, like swap. Some may just be, you know, purchase only. They buy your own items. And have, each one will have specific items or certain things that they can do. Obviously, haven't come up with what exactly it's going to be, but I need to figure out what they're going to represent and then come up with. I'll probably do a simple shop, which would be basically just a quick and dirty little bit, like a little counter there with an AI person standing behind there, and you can interact with that person, and you'll get prompts on the screen. I'm not going to worry too much about the background prop environment or really making it look, you know, we'll worry about that down the road. The main thing I want to do is get it set up where each shop actually works and interacts properly, and it may just be just a person standing there, like an AI person you walk up to and interact with, and I'll have a little sign hanging off the front here to indicate what the shop is. Yeah, so without getting sidetracked again, spawn location attributes, here it is. Let's stretch this out and look at this. So you see here what I used here. This is the line that changed. This in the start function. You know, originally I had actually -45 was the last thing. I had it set to m_last spawn time equals -45, and the reason we did that was our frequencies were all set to 60 seconds on the basic spawn that we were using. But then I realized as I increase some of these timers, like the 5 minutes, some may be 10, you know, 45 seconds doesn't take a whole lot off. There's still a long wait time for items to start spawning. You know, essentially like for a minimum of at a 5-minute spawn timer at 45 seconds removed, you're looking at 4 minutes and 15 seconds easily to wait for the first item to spawn. So I changed it up a little bit and made it so that it will work with no matter what frequency I set up. It'll work. And what I'm doing is I'm taking, if you look inside the random.range function, it's going to return a random number, which will be an integer or value in the range of 5, which is the starting number, up to whatever the frequency is divided by 2. So, for example, in our 5-minute timer, the frequency could amount to a number that corresponds to 2.5 minutes in our 5 minutes. So the range, random.range will return a number between 5 and 2.5 minutes minus 1 second. It's actually one less than. Doesn't include that number. It's inclusive of the 5, but exclusive of this number. So it'll be the number just before it. So it'll be instead of let's see, 60 is 120 and another 30 be 180. So it'll be 5, 180 essentially is what it evaluates to in our current spawn setup with a 5-minute timer. No, I take that back. It's 150, not 180. 150. So one less than 150V. So it'll return a number between 5 and 149. So essentially we'll get a random number. Every spawn location that is using this, actually all our spawns use this script here. So no matter what the frequency is set to, it'll come up with a number that's equal to within the range of 5 to half the frequency minus 1. So basically a number within that range. And that'll make sure that we get items that spawn sooner, not right away, but as soon as 5 seconds, but up to half of whatever the spawn time is. So on a 60-second timer, within 30 seconds you'll get an item no later. It's guaranteed to be no later than that, but it could be as soon as 5 seconds. Same with the 5-minute timers, as no later than 2.5 minutes, but as early as 5 seconds. So this works good. It randomizes it. It keeps it where, when we have thousands of spawn locations in this map. I mean, right now I have possibly, I didn't really count how many I have, but I think I have close to 50 or more, maybe 100, 50 to 100 spawn locations in this area right here. I think it's closer to 50. But anyways, I didn't want like all these items to try to spawn at one time. We had that issue before where Unity, it may have just been in the editor, where if you try to spawn everything at one time, or actually when the game was loading, I had the issue. I think when I tried to spawn after the fact, I think it was fine. But just to be on the safe side, I wanted to randomize it. I didn't really want everything to like spawn and despawn at the same time. So I needed to have a universal way for that to work, and something simple. And this is the best way to do it, because as the frequencies are changed, and even if they're not, if they're all left the same, we're still getting a random spawn time, starting spawn time based on what the last spawn time is set to. So essentially, by setting the last spawn time to a negative value, when it gets first evaluated here, this last spawn time is subtracted from the current game time. So it's essentially going to speed up the spawning. When it was set to 0, it always had to wait for the next full spawn time for it to spawn an item. With this, it will subtract at least up to half the time, and I probably could even do more possibly and get a closer spawn time. But anyways, this seems to be working out well. So it gives it just more. It's more randomized, more realistic, having the spawn location. Especially when you got 51 one area. They would spawn items start to spawn at different times and all that. So anyways, that was the only script change I went in. I didn't do any other additional scripting that I recall. Essentially, it was just using that tool, the provided props and things from the Mega Fantasy Props Pack to build this area. So let's go ahead and run this so you can see exactly what it looks like. can't really see it from there, from the top-down view. It doesn't give it justice. Now, granted, it's not the best. Now, you've seen the wall. You guys have seen the wall. And I had, you know, these areas here. And what I added was a center section here. Well, of course, these rooms are still here. These are the rooms I'm talking about where the merchants will be with an NPC AI type player you would interact with to like a merchant person. So, anyways, I added, and you can see down there in that box. See, there's a first aid kit that already spawned. So you see, some of them are picking up right away. I also did increase. I went to all the items, and on the spawn radius, we had a sphere collider on these items. Well, with it being as small as it was, we had to do that because we were in that small little house that we initially were using before. And that small little house, I didn't want the sphere colliders to overlap, so you weren't picking up like two items. Well, for here, because some of the props, the tables are wider and bigger, and I have it centered, and plus there's only one item or one spawn, you know, nothing really near an item. I was able to increase the sphere collider to make this work for this area, and I believe I have them set to 10 right now, 10 or 15, I can't remember. On most items, there's a few items like the bat and the Jerry did not require the way that they were modeled out and the way they are. The sphere collider worked fine at a smaller value like 7 or 8. So, anyways, I tweaked a lot of that. I made sure the glow worked on some of it. I noticed that the glow was not quite there. Like you can see as you walk up, boom, you can pick it up right there, even though it's all the way across the table far away. So that's by increasing the sphere collider, it's triggered sooner because you know the collider. If we were to look at it in the editor, you'll see that the radius of that collider reaches beyond the table edge, and so that was required for that. So, anyways, we've got a few that are in like just randomly thrown, just spawn locations in the ground like this. The other thing I added was, or modified, I did make a change. Instead of pressing the P for pickup, which was all the way across the keyboard, I set it for V as in Victor. And you'll notice it's a lot. It's actually within the way I'm holding AWSD to navigate. My thumb is really hanging over the V key right now. So it made sense where I could just watch. I could just walk and hit V as I enter the zones and pick these up. I can even run and time it and turn back. You can see I was able to pick all those items up. So the pickup system is a lot better by binding it to the letter V as in Victor instead of P as in pickup. So you see the glow on that Jerry cam was much better than what it had been. It was really small before. You actually couldn't see it, I don't think. So on some of these boxes, I've got like 2 spawns. Some of these barrels that are laid down here, I just have a single spawn in the middle. Now later on, as I was working with these props, and I decided to take, I was actually attaching the spawns like separately. I would put the prop in, then I would just attach the spawn item and then readjust it and all that. So what I did was to automatically, since I knew I was going to be doing that quite a bit and probably reusing these stacks of barrels and boxes throughout this world somewhere else maybe, or at least in this area and the other shop areas that I'll set up, I went ahead and created a prefab with the barrels and the boxes, and the new barrel setup has actually 2 spawn spots. Instead of just one in the middle, it has 2, one on each side. And so essentially that's what we have. We have staircases on either side, left and right, to go up to the top platform. It's in the front and the back. And then we have the little stair. I've got some, like I said, I've got some random ones in the corner here that just spawn in the grass here. This mouse is real sensitive, that's why the view's like going all over the place. So we'll pick that up. We can just run, pick up V, hitting V, and just picking it up when I see the glow. Sometimes I'll miss one, but no, that was good. You can jump off sides. We don't have any sound effects, which is a bummer, but that's the next thing is to work on sound effects when we're running. So I'll have to get some sod or grass effects when you're running on the grass. It's almost like sod. It feels like, it looks and feels like sod to me. Alright, so now these barrels here, these boxes of course will spawn random items. And the barrels now have one spawn location on this side and over on this side here. So we do have 2 spawns there. I just kind of threw some random items up here. I changed out the platform texture here. What material? It was initially I had it the same as these brick stairs, the same as the stairs. Just went all the way through. It was seamless, went all the way through. But I changed it to this here. But I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of liking the way it was before because it all matched. It just seemed like one seamless work of art here. Let's go ahead and get that bottle of water that spawned there. And now there's a created this. It had this winding staircase that would curve around pieces. So I went ahead and actually made these and just connected a bunch of pieces, duplicated them and stacked them basically to make this tall tower that you can run up. It also gives you a great view of the entire map. So you don't want to fall off. You won't die right now. There's no damage, but you've got all these loot areas up here. They're on the top platform. And of course, the treasure chest, I was going to have something special in it. For now, it has 3 spawners in it. So you have the potential to get 3 items at one time in the chest. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I worked on. It took me, let's see, I was on stream yesterday morning, so I believe I was. Maybe it was the night before. I think it was the night before. But I spent a day, let's say, a day building this area, playing with the props, lining things up, setting spawn locations. It's kind of, some of it was experimental. Just getting a feel for some of this, just to see what was in there. Yeah, so the I want to change this here because it does look kind of, you can tell it looks like a painted surface. It doesn't actually look like a texture. Looks like someone took a photograph and just pasted it on there. Yeah, so that was the area here. Kind of what I came up with at first. Of course, this can always be changed or modified. I just was trying to knock out something quick. I really wanted to see if that's the other thing. If this Invector, because they had all the colliders built in to the stairs and their prefabs, it literally worked all out of the box. There's nothing special I had to do. I could just literally take the prefabs and start building, and he was automatically running up the stairs. No, I didn't have to. I was relieved of that because to build, I could do it. I could build some, put some box colliders at each step here in this model, but the fact they already had all that done was just better. And they had actually they had a simple mesh collider on there, which matched closely to the stairs better. And can't pick that up. Why is that? Oh, I'm full. That's why. No, those don't stack. Yeah, so the inventory. I'm really just happy with the way all this is going. Granted, there's still no focus on what exactly this game is going to be. I'm just kind of throwing out, features and elements and doing things just to to see if I can do them and make it happen. Um, like I was talking about a shooter before, and then it's got this, kind of, fantasy pack look here. But I guess you could still, it's just still be a cool battle zone, though. And there's a lot of spawns here. You could have other players coming in and battle with you. That's the next thing I want to work on is now that we're got an area, we got plenty of items to pick up. Can't pick that up because I'm out of slots. Yeah, so I'm just happy with the way it's working, and it took a little, I guess, creative thought to get this stuff worked out. At first, I didn't have any columns in here. I just raised the platform up in the air and put the stairwells on it, and then there was like nothing out here that was nothing out here that was supporting the thing. It was almost like a floating platform, and so I had to put in these concrete columns here that you see, the granite ones, and just to make it look realistic, like it's being held up by those. But essentially, Unity don't care. You place an object in the air in 3D space, they don't care, especially if it doesn't have a rigid body on it where it's affected by physics. So the item doesn't drop; it just stays in the air. Yeah, like the height of the tables actually is kind of pretty good. You can get a running start and you time it right. You can actually jump over these. If you wait too long, you kind of get stuck. So it's all about the timing. Yeah, so this is the area here. We still have plenty of room to build and expand. But this area here, this structure, actually has been designed in a way that it could be dropped in as is right now. That's the beauty of the prefab system. Let's get a snapshot. Get a snapshot here of this. I want to have something that I can put into the thumbnail for this video. I guess just something that would kind of show off this area. Maybe that. Yeah, I don't want to show the water. I do want to show part of that. Maybe like this. Let's print screen that. Raise up just to here. Let me open up my paint program. Paste that in there. Okay, so we're good. We got it. Yeah, so let's stop this. And all right. Yeah, we can zoom in here. Yeah, I did discover this is something I know I've seen it in a couple of videos I watched. People are able to do it like a fly through. I was wondering, well, how are they doing that? Well, you have to make sure first of all you're on the hand tool, and then if you right click the mouse button, then you can use the AWSD keys and the mouse. You just kind of move it around for your view, but it lets you do a kind of a fly through. And if you hold down your key, you're gonna accelerate and get some speed up. So you can really move around the map good, which is kind of cool. You can get looking around and not necessarily have to run the game to see what something would look like doing the fly through. So that was kind of cool just to discover that. It's something I probably should have found out or researched how to do early on. I've seen it and I just never looked it up, but it was pretty simple. So I kind of have to tap the the W key, so I don't accelerate too fast, but it really lets me kind of go through if you want to look at something. Now you can also, if you hold down the Alt key, let go of the mouse buttons, hold down the Alt key while you're in a view right now, and then I can right click, I think it is. No, I'm sorry, left click. No, it's right click. No. Yeah, that's zoom in. Must be left click. No, it's not working. There's actually a way to go here. It was Alt, I know. You hit Alt, and then oh, it's not working now. Anyways, you're supposed to be able to orbit around the current, where you're at. The whatever point you're at becomes like an origin. You're supposed to be able to orbit around that area. And I had it working earlier. I don't know what I'm hitting wrong. I'll have to check into that. Yeah, so that's our progress on here. And so just wanted to show that to you and what, you get a prop kit that's ready to go. You can build an area literally in a day, especially if you really have it well thought out. I didn't really have a plan for this. I didn't, kind of envision anything. I just kind of did it as I went and just started throwing things in there. There's still a lot of the props I have not used, like some of the houses. I think I'm going to use those outside the walls, and near the trees, just have little houses that to discover items and different things, or just have something in there. I don't know exactly what yet, but I'm sure I'll find a purpose for them. Yeah, so that's it. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you are appreciating Unity a little bit more like I am. It's really a cool tool to develop games with, and even they say you don't necessarily need to know how to script or do any coding to write a game in Unity. And you kind of can, but you have to at some point do a little bit of scripting. And the little bit you have to do, though, is not hard once you learn how to interact with items. And, so it just depends on what kind of game you're trying to create. I mean, there are games you can create that I think literally don't have any code. I've seen a few that were done that did not require any code. It was all just things happening, based on, well, actually there was a little bit of script here and there, but not like heavy scripting. It's a few lines of code and that's it, which you can pick up from any YouTube videos that are out there. So anyways, thanks again for viewing. We're going to end the stream at this, and I'm going to take the afternoon off and relax. It's actually Sunday, but I just wanted to stream out the progress here of what I did yesterday, Saturday, my day off. And I need to start making a list, a goal of some things that need to be done here. Because we're still at a point where I really want to be able to use that pistol, to be honest with you, and start getting the inventory items, in use. And so maybe our next plan here is to work on that. Not necessarily worry about these little shops to trade up things. We've got a larger area now to spawn and loot and to move around. And so, yeah, we'll maybe progress in that direction. Start getting the player. I'm gonna have to work out what keys are gonna be used for what, and for the bindings on using the items. So I also need to build a. Really don't have a HUD system right now, and so I think, so there's a number of things. Once I start thinking of one thing, I start thinking, okay, well, in order to do that, I'll need this, and so that's what I need to jot down and write out, and then come up with a progression of things that need to be done. Obviously, the HUD is something we need. We need to show the player health. I kind of showed that briefly, a script I started. So we need to utilize that script now in some way. So um, I want to see if there's a way to tie into uh, uh, the Invector when he's falling, and somehow discover a way to return back the the distance dropped. And so if it's greater than, once you get beyond what we call a safe distance, you'll start receiving damage. But and the damage would be scaled by the total fall distance. So let's say if you're falling 100 meters, but we're going to say 30 meters. You can safely drop from 30 meters and land on your feet, and you're good. Um, so the remaining 70 meters would be your damage zone, and so we would take whatever the damage would be progressive. It would be some kind of scale starting at the 30 mark, being very little. You take a little damage and more as you get to the final drop zone at a certain height. I mean, the scale has to be set where at a certain height you lose 100% of your health and die. So, like, obviously jumping off the top of this tower up top to the platform below should be a death sentence, or at least very close to it. If we want to allow the player to continue playing, maybe take them down to like 2% health or something at 5% or less, or just make them die. I don't know. We'll decide on that. That's the beauty of being a developer. You can do whatever you want. And since I have no feedback right now, that's what I'll do. Once I start getting feedback in the comments or some interaction from the chat, then I can start, customizing the game according to recommendations from the viewers. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll outline the things that need to be done and in the order they need to be done, and I think I really need to, as much as I want to play around with Unity so much that I almost don't want to take the time to do that, because I like working in here and playing around with stuff. Like, even I wanted to jump and throw in, an AI player, interactive AI player, but it doesn't make sense to do that when there's other things that we've already incorporated in the game that, to me, are not 100% complete. For example, the usage, of items, and we need to get all that done. But in order to show the usage, we need to have a HUD with some stats showing. We also need to have, I'd like to have a way to show the quick slots, what's in the quick slots, some games show it at the top of the screen, some show it at the bottom. I think if it's at the bottom, you're actually having to take your, like, if I'm looking straight at the screen running, and let's visualize this. This is something to consider. I mean, everything's a design decision, but you already have a frame counter up there. But when I'm running like this, if I have to look down toward the taskbar on my Windows desktop, it definitely it takes me away from the scene altogether. I can see that when I look down, it's like, but if I'm like running, it seems like I could almost look just above my player's head and glance at the top left or right and still have a better view of the scene in front of me as opposed to looking down. Now, that's me. Maybe that's my eyes, but I'm going to have to assume that it's the same for everyone until I get some feedback. But maybe later on at a later point, it'll be set up where the UI HUD will be able to be customized. We'll have a settings menu, and it can be customized, and the player can specify whether they want it, on the top or the bottom, or to even show it at all, or show we call it minified version of it, either in the top or bottom. It'll be, you can have the standard, normal, or minified, and then you can specify top or bottom. So, that may be something we'll definitely look into. I like customizing things. When I wrote software before for the finance business, there were a lot of customizations, a lot of settings you can get into and customize the way that software worked. But I did start out, when I first wrote that software, I did write it a lot of things were initially hard-coded, and then I went back later. Once I got something working, then I would go back and soft-code it and pull in that soft-coded setting. That's through the user settings and or configuration options, and then make sure it worked. But I would always hard-code something first, and then go back and soft-code it later to make sure it worked. Sometimes you're pulling in a value. If you soft-code everything right away, you're having a troubleshoot pulling in null values or things that aren't set by the user that may be required, or if you don't remember to set defaults for a certain item so that something works, it becomes a problem. So it's best to write something out, and necessarily, when I say hard code, there may be certain values that have to be set, and you can put comments in your code. Hey, this needs to go in a user setting. The default value needs to be whatever, and put that as a one-line comment in your code. So when you go back and you're looking at it, you'll see. Obviously, you want to document it as well. You could document the code file, the script file, as well as the function that the setting or the hard-coded value resides in. So when you get to the point where you're going to implement all that, you can easily go back and find those rather than just scour your code for comments. Yeah, so I'm just showing here. I'm easily walking and picking up items. This is so much better with the V key instead of the P for pickup. I could do a triple pickup right here. See, all three lit up. They're within the sphere collider zone. You can pick up 3 items at one time. At first, it was an anomaly at first, but to me, I think it's kind of cool because you can get in there and get all those items at one time. You don't have to sit there and wait, pick up 3 separate items, as long as you're within reach. It's kind of a bonus. And we can see our little house down there. I don't know if you can see it in the distance there. If you look under my last name there, it's way there in the distance on that flat platform. That's the other thing. Let's do a quick rundown over there. Did it jump? Do I make it over? Yes. What I wanted to do was to make sure that for the most part every area is visible from another main area on the map, even if it was just something in the distance. I want the player to be able to see that there was something up here, something to discover. And so let's run to our old platform there. Now that should be a death ball right there for sure, but we have no way to show health. I really think that's going to be the first focus, is getting the HUD built. Come up with a HUD, even if it is a basic HUD. But I do want to show player health. Here's the things I wrote down already. Player health, player stamina, because the stamina is not going to be unlimited. Their rank, experience, gold, those things will show up. And then we'll have our quick slots. Those items will show, as well as your primary and secondary weapon that's equipped. That will also show. So it'll be like, and you'll be able to hit like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to access primary 1, secondary. Yeah, so we can pick these up right here. Boom. This guy runs he can get in there so much easier and move around so much easier. Yeah, so that all still works. Just sometimes you can pick up more than one item. That was too many spawn locations for that. But anyways, you can see, if you look here, how you can see in the distance, there's a structure of some sort, something up there. Can't really tell what it is from here because of the rendering, but something's up there, and that's what I wanted. All right, and my mouse went dead. I was wondering what happened here. My mouse went dead. I have a rechargeable mouse, and I had it unplugged. All right, there we go. Yeah, our frames aren't bad. 52, 50. We definitely discovered trees were an issue. If I look to that area where the trees are at, you can see the frames immediately drop when it has to start rendering trees by almost 10 frames. Sometimes more. 30 frames, but I'm losing about 6 to 8 frames here. I noticed I was like at 40, 42 off stream. Again, it is my system, but I'm going to keep optimizing and using trees sparingly. I also switched to, I got rid of the, there was a couple of things that were from the morph kit, and I think it was the morph, not the Invector, but the morph, that we're checking for Direct 3D 9, basically DirectX 9 and compatibility, and Unity 5 Plus no longer supports Direct 9. We're on Direct 10 or 11 minimum, but I went ahead and set it for DirectX 11 is the minimum that's required here. So that seemed to help. Just, well, eliminate the errors, number one, because we're not allowing a DirectX 9 for rendering purposes. We're using a DirectX 11 rendering pipeline, or allowing Unity to use that. I'm not doing any direct rendering myself. It's all handled by Unity. So when that really becomes a problem, I guess we'll look at the frame rate. Right now it's still playable, and you know, like I said, I have a low to medium, well, medium quality system for gaming, really. It's at the bottom of the barrel. I have a 4th-generation back graphics card. You know, they're on, NVIDIA has the GTX 1080s, 1070s, 1060s. I'm running a 660, so you know, there were the 700 series that came out, then the 800, then the 9, and the 1000 series. And so, you know, that's actually, well, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 4 generations. Mine is really, when I consider it's the 5 generations back. But there's 4 more generations ahead of me, so I'm definitely behind a few. And so if I can run it, the way I'm feeling is if I can get this game to run on my system here. You know, I used to, this doesn't look bad, but just a few trees. I didn't have to have a massive amount of trees. Just a few here and there. And as I add some additional areas out here, I'll probably remove the trees. Yeah, so if it can run on my graphics, what I'm getting at is if it can run on my system, should be able to run on anyone else's out there. And so, you know, like a 660 would be the minimum specs. Obviously, a 1060, 1070, 1080 being the recommended. Matter of fact, I have a access to a 10. Is it a 1060 system? Yeah, 1060. And what I'm going to do now that I have this, actually, I'm starting to grow. This floor is starting to grow on me here. Although I don't like that. It seems like it's just a painted surface. There's not really a lot of texture to it. It looks flat. Let's see if we can change that real quick and readjust it. I started playing around a little bit. If we look here under the island terrain, location A, okay, Trader Village is what I call this. So as we add additional locations outside the walls here in the same area, which is location A, they'll have their own empty game object to contain all the objects, and so we can easily hide the entire or spawn. I could really make a prefab. What I was saying earlier, I could take this whole Trader's Village and drag it in as a prefab if I want, and respawn it somewhere else. Exactly, everything the same. Spawn locations, it'll look, feel, and operate the same way. That's the beauty of this prefab system that Unity has. It's very powerful. I know other engines like Unreal, they say they got something called blueprints and whatever. It does the same thing, but and the frame rate probably would be better with Unreal Engine. But I'm committed to staying with Unity. I've started learning this. You know, I'm committed to working with it and you know, pushing it to both my limits and what it can do. And you know, I've got another project I do want to work on after this. something in the education realm. And I'll definitely use Unity for it. Based on what I've seen so far and what I can do with it, I should be able to accomplish everything that I wanted to do in that app. So, especially if we finish this out, I just want to have this. This will be my first game I can just throw in my portfolio and say, look, this is what I did in my spare time. Kind of worked on it. It took me 6 months or whatever. I mean, I started it looking back at our first video. Actually on YouTube right now. The first video that I did for this 3D learning series, when we started playing around with this, let's go to videos. So the first one for this, video number 1, was exactly 1 month ago. And so this is video 18 right now, I believe. Yeah, so I've done a little more than every other. I've tried to, like I said, I really would like to do one every day, but sometimes I can't. So every other day for sure, and that'll guarantee 15 videos a month. And that's my goal. But I would like to possibly do more than that, one every day. But I would like to, let me turn off this volume. I've got just launched the live stream to make sure everything is showing up fine. Yeah, it seems to be coming along well, and I'm learning as I go, and it's just something fun to play. Instead of playing video games, I always did like to create things, and I wanted to be a really a modeler, an animator in the early days when I really started fooling around with a computer, but I didn't have really the hardware or the software or the money as a young teenager out of high school, to actually purchase some of the software back then that was needed, which was like Maya and 3ds Max, professional software. Now, they're offering student editions, and there is actually a free edition of Maya that you can get for modeling, and it makes sense. You provide the tools not because you're giving away software, but because you're hooking a client base. Really, you're looking at hooking a client base. You want to get people using your software, getting familiar with it, getting fluent with it, so they're capable of it. By the time they're ready for the job market, they have a portfolio they can build using your product and actually show what they know. But at the same time, because they know it, there's a good chance they're going to buy it when it comes to their professional career. They're actually going to buy it, or they're going to work on a team that's going to be using it and buying it. So it really makes sense from that standpoint. I think there's a big issue with, the people getting the hack software, or someone stealing the software and unlocking the features and all that. But I think with the version they have right now, I think Maya, I think it was required an online subscription in order to unlock the features or something like that, so they can control. I don't know exactly, but anyways, without going too much off topic, I did want to be an animator or modeler back in the early days. I did like to draw, but I know that there are people out there that draw 100 times better than I ever did, and so kind of abandoned it for that reason. Of course, I'm kind of a jack of all trades right now, and I can do a little bit of everything, and never really mastered any one thing. In this, whether it be development or animation or graphics, paint, anything. But I've learned a lot. I know enough about everything to tie it all together and come up with, some kind of working, product. So I guess that's all that matters as well. Because an animator can't do anything without a programmer, without a 2D artist. You need someone for the music, and you can either learn a little bit of it all and put it all together yourself, or you can specialize in one area and be dependent on others. So I've learned early on not to depend on others, and try to be self-sufficient and get things done. Because there are times it needs, but nowadays you have large teams working together, so you do have people you can depend on, and people that are really good at what they do, especially in these large production houses. So, anyways, this is where we're at with this, and I'm going to end the stream right here. Just save the scene. I don't know what exactly I changed. I guess it was the platform. I did want to change that upper area platform. Let's kind of check that out. What you can do when you add your under the mesh renderer, when you pick your material here, it sets up a default shader for it. Uses a standard shader. You can expand that out, and the tiling here is something that is stored with the material. So be aware that if you have a material, like I had this material on this tall pillar here, this tower, and that material, if you share the material across objects, if you change the tiling, it changes it across all objects because it's changing the material. So what you want to do is to either duplicate that material and have a second copy of it, and then use that. And maybe, matter of fact, what I did was, or what I plan to do was, anytime I create a material, if I know it's going to be a 5x5 tiling material, I'll name it that way, like it'll be the material name underscore, like 5 to indicate it needs to be a 5 tiling to get the best result. And so, anyways, I kind of fooled with these. If we go up to like 10, you can see what 10 does. That's what it looks like here, and let's run that. So the tiling effect. Sometimes you start to see these hash checkerboard designs. The horizontal, vertical lines, and if you tile too much. So that's still, it's kind of getting there, but not really. So let's stop that. I mean, it almost seems like you got to go to extreme on this. And I might just switch it back to the brick just to keep it like this is a brick compound more or less, except for the wooden floor and the fence, but everything else was kind of like this brick. Alright, so that's starting to look a little bit more textured when you're at 20. But I actually did apply, the reason it's really reflecting a lot like that is I put a metallic, finish on it. I picked another, but I may go ahead and remove that, set that to none. Well, actually, it is none. I thought I picked it, maybe not. But you can adjust that, the tint, whether it's really shiny or not. So let's bump this up to 30 by 30. And let's see if we get a better result. I'm still really not happy with the way this looks on here. I don't know if it would look good on anything, to be honest with you, except the wall. Although cobblestone, I guess you have the pillars are, I think it's granite there. Yeah, I mean, I guess this looks better like that, if I'm going to keep it. Let's go back to the original. What I had was, let's see. Yeah, let's see if I can find it really quick. It was the stone wall. Let's see, is this the one that's renamed? Let's see. That's Stonewall 3D. I don't know if that's it. Oh, there's the cobblestone there. But what? Oh, that was that one. Let's do this. Let's just create a new. Now that I figured out how to do these materials better, go here, create new material. And all mine that I modify, if I'm modifying an existing one, I put an underscore before it. This would be brick wall. Wall or floor, basically. All right, so we've got that there, and then we just pick under the albedo. You go and you pick your existing material that's here, texture. See, now I'm getting some extras here. Stonewall 3D, Stonewall normal. I think it was this one here. I think was it Stonewall. Yeah, it had to have been that one. All right, so we've got well, you've got that Stonewall too. This is the one I use, Stonewall 3D, and then there's the normal one. So we'll click that. So for the normal map, we'll also pick, since they provided it, we'll use it. If they don't provide it, I don't generally worry about it. Okay. So now we have our material there. You see we have it set. And that's it. We pick it. You don't have to save it. It automatically saves. It's good to go as long as you save. Well, at this, you save your project, save scene. So now we can go to the upper platform and where this cobblestone was. I put the underscore because they show up at the very beginning here. There's the new material we've set. And by default, you see how huge it is. Of course, I think it remembered. Now, let's see. That's a single one. Actually, the quality in it is really good for one. It doesn't look very stretched. It must be really high detail. Let's do 10 by 10. What I wound up having to do because I wanted to match the stairs here. And I don't know if this is exactly the same one or not. Let's go over here. It's got an awful lot of reflection on this, even though it looks yeah, it looks like the same, sort of the same bricks, but the brightness on it is just crazy. So what we'll need to do is modify maybe this tint a little bit. Drop it down the metallic finish. Yeah, then we'll get something closer to what we had there. Okay, that's pretty close. I wanted something close to that, so let's check that out. 10 by 10 looks like it made them about the same size as what the stair texture was. So let's play that. Yeah, so if we come up here, and we look, Still a little bit brighter. It's definitely closer. But the texture, to me, it just looks, this texture looks better. Just looks better overall. Now from this angle, it looks like it blends in, but when you're looking this way, yeah, it still has some smoothness to it. Let's see if we can iron that out. Let's see. Okay, maybe that was it there as opposed to this one. Okay, so that's what's giving it kind of the shininess too. So that's, some of this is just playing around with, and that's what takes time, is playing around, tweaking, getting materials looking the way you want them. If you don't care, you just go on. But I mean, if you, that matters to me. I'm one of these types of people that something just it has to be just right. I'm going to tweak it until it is right. Yeah, that's a better match right there, as far as the shading goes and the smoothness, the color. So that looks better. And so yeah, this is what I originally had on here. Let's really look closely at the brick size too. And I think, yeah, they look almost identical. I'm looking at that orange one right in front of me, that brownish orange one. Look at the one behind me, and they look like they're offset, but they're about the same size. So, and it almost, with the exception of the seam here, if the bricks would overlap, it would look like it would all be. Actually, if I push the stair in, it looks like these four pieces here all match. Let me just back up just a little bit. Oops. So yeah, looking at where the seam is, I don't know if you can see that seam there. But yeah, you can see that the bricks I have right at the seam actually are the same ones. If I were to push that stairwell in and line them up, it would look like it was one seamless stairwell. So let's see if we can just do that. I'm not going to do it in all four right now, but I do want to see. It's very rare that, because I looked at something yesterday and I was not able to line it up because the textures didn't match up right. But that was before I could have caused that problem, because I didn't realize, like I mentioned about the tiling, when you modify the tiling, and you're modifying the material directly. You just have when you drop that material in, this is just a reference or the property inspector portion for that material, but anything you modify here, you're modifying on the master material. So you want to, anyway, you want to make sure you're aware of that. Create a duplicate copy of the material if you know you're going to have to change the tiling for one, game object versus another. All right, so we're going to go to, so we have this upper platform here. We got the upper fencing, and then the upper tower. Let's see, where are the stairs? Shop round. Upper stairs. Here it is, right here. I'm sorry. And I renamed them based on direction. What I called the north side of the building was the main entrance that comes as you come up the hill to this area. That's, when I'm looking from a top-down view, that's the north side. This side here is the south that we're looking at. Well, this side that we're actually on at the stairwell is the south side. Looking straight ahead in the horizon, that's going to be our east. And to our left, off screen where we can't see, would be our west. So I'm going to, this should be, if I clicked on the southwest staircase, if I click that, and it is. So I just wanted to make sure I labeled it right. And so what we're going to do, we might have to back up just a little bit in order to see. There's a, I hit this move tool. Okay, so we're going to try to move that in. We're just sliding it in. Back up just here. Okay, now let's zoom in there and take a look. Let's get a top-down view of this. Let's see, I think we can, from this view, yeah, we can get access to this move tool even better. Yeah, so you can't really even tell, like, literally, if this is where, it's actually off a little bit, I can see, if you can see down right here, I'm looking at this brick right here, and it should go around here and curve down this little piece here from the stairs up. So we want to move the whole stairwell, grab this red tool here, going to move it until it looks like it's lined up. There, that looks better. And now, still maybe off just to here. Let's move it in a little bit and see how that looks. I have to move just to here back. I guess that was okay. Let's see that. What am I moving? I do that. That's the position, the X. So 2, 6. I think it's right on. I think we're good. I mean, look at the second brick. It looks like the line comes. I can see the seam. Still see the seam a little bit, but it's lined up almost as good as it possibly can. That's a better mesh than what it was. It makes it look more seamless that way. And so now let's hit play and take a look at that. Well, now when it renders, I can still see the seam. I guess I'm off on it. It looked like I was on, but I think what I need to do is I need to push that forward and just not really even show that. Just show the seam, not the portion of the brick, because what it looked like. It doesn't look the same as the way it was looking. Because look at this third brick right here. Like this area right here, you can see this is clearly a different color than this portion here. Same with that and that. But in the here, well, anyway, let's look at a relocation of the stairwell. I'm going to change that X to 1. Actually, it's Z. I'm changing the wrong value. Yeah, so 50. Just trying to get it where it's kind of cutting off right about there. Just seeing that little concrete cement seam in between the bricks rather than try to match up bricks. See, this is the kind of stuff before I realize it, I'll spend like an hour just trying to, position this. I'm surprised I haven't, like I noticed the barrels are hovering. That was the first set I laid down. Surprised I haven't gone back and changed it. Yeah, so that looks better that way. Even though the brick's getting cut off, it looks like a better seam altogether. That's about the best we can do. Yeah, so let's get that worked out there. So we hold our Alt, no, it's right click, and then fly through. Okay, yeah, let's figure out what breaks those out. Now, see the barrel spawner, 1. Okay, that's 1 right there. Okay. 2. Okay, so that's this one here. So we can just lower that down a little bit. That's all. You can look by the shadow. You can almost tell when you go down, you can see when it's starting to go through. Right about there, you can see it start. The orange line, the outline starts, it fades out. It's dimmed out. You can tell when it. So right about there is probably pretty good. So that's slightly up too. You can see a little gap there. See, sometimes you don't see that when you're just laying it down. Actually, when you're higher up, you don't see it. It really probably don't matter, but just lower that down just to here. 3. Gotta be careful what I'm looking at. Oh wait, I might have been looking at the. Yeah, that's up a little bit, but go back to that barrel there. I could have been looking at the wrong floor. I could have been looking at the. No, I was looking at the concrete. Just want to make sure I'm looking at the right layer because there's a, the wood ceiling that's underneath. Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, so they're all just a hair up. I eyeballed it when I just dropped them in there. I was just kind of doing it. All right, and the last one. Oops. Right here. Let's raise that up. Rotate around. I'll just lower that down just to here. All right, so I'm not gonna fool with that much more. We'll save our scene. We can collapse all this. Save our project. Yeah, so we're gonna call this a stream here. Takes YouTube a while to process everything, so I won't be able to put my thumbnail up for a while. It looks like it takes anywhere between 15 minutes up to an hour before that's ready. So, anyways, let's call that an end here. Appreciate everybody stopping out. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Definitely give some feedback if you are interested in what you're seeing, and and you're send me some feedback. Anything positive, negative. I'll accept either. I don't take a lot of that to heart. The negative feedback. I'm the type of person that's going to just read it and take it with a grain of salt. I know it's your opinion, which you're entitled to, and you get a lot of these other people that they start banning people from chat and doing whatever because they're saying something that they don't want to say. But it's your opinion. You say what you want to say as long as you're not, cursing and cussing in the chat. If you got something you want to say that ain't, necessarily in line with my view, that's perfectly fine. That's your opinion. So feel free to state that. Anyways, thanks again for stopping out, and y'all have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll definitely be back on tomorrow with another live stream. That's the goal. I'm going to keep moving forward with this. And in the time that I'm off, like I said, I'll take a little break today, but I'll probably spend some time jotting down some ideas and organizing the direction of things that need to be done. And I'll try to put up a master list, not just been kind of doing a smaller, refined list of, okay, I'm working on this one task, but what are the things I need to do to make that task to completion? So I'm going to look at the overall goal of this entire project and really iron this out. Maybe even come up with, all the locations, what the theme of each location is going to be, and then go from there and decide what, inside each location. I'll detail out, what I plan to do, and I will create a task list and just start knocking those tasks out as we go. So that's the goal there, and organization is the key to making progress here, keeping things flowing in an orderly fashion that makes sense. But I'm very, kind of anticipating and excited to get to the part where I start working with the Unity animation system, and actually getting him, when you equip a gun, that he's actually, and you right click to aim, that the animations are working with that. This will be interesting, and I'll be learning a lot as I go. So anyways, that's the direction we're going in for now. Documentation, organization, outlining. I'll see you on the next stream. Thanks again.